Time now for an in-depth look at the market news this afternoon, and for that I'm joined on the line by Mr. Daniel Yu, global strategist at Yuanta Securities. Mr. Yu, good afternoon. Thank you for coming on.
Good afternoon.
Let's start with the markets. Stocks in New York were up on Thursday on stronger than expected earnings and more spending plans from the Biden administration. S&P at a new high above 4,200 points. What's the story in the global markets?
Yes, if you look at the U.S. market, Dow closed up about 0.7% and S&P 500 advanced about 0.7% as well. And if you look at the NASDAQ, it was slightly up by about 0.2%. If you look at the earnings numbers coming out from most of these companies, it looks very strong. And all in all, it seems that the economy is recovering, and generally the GDP numbers are on the right track. Liquidity conditions are also reasonably okay. However, there's a bit of concern about the interest rate rise. And if you look at the 10-year government bond rate, it has slightly increased to about 1.6%. If you look at the earnings numbers coming from the Amazon and various tech-heavy companies, most of these numbers are coming in much stronger than expected, and the earnings growth seems to be very strong. However, though, if you look at the overall price movement, NASDAQ was up only by 0.22%. I think that people are concerned about what's happening to the liquidity conditions. There's a possibility of tapering concern in the future, and we need to watch out how aggressive these numbers are going to look like in terms of the unemployment numbers as well as economic growth numbers.
Well, here in Korea, stocks today were down by a fair bit. Foreigners, institutions were net sellers again today, and it seems there's concern about Korea next week set to allow short selling again, which has been banned for the past year. Tell us about the local market.
Yes, it seems that the markets continue to show some declining trend overall. As you said, there's a concern about the short selling starting to happen again. And also there has been a lot of liquidity going into the IPOs, SKIET, and it's expected, it seems to show over 70 trillion won worth of money were actually injected into IPO of this stock. All in all, liquidity is ample. However, though, there's a concern about this short selling ban removed in the future, which is starting on May 3rd. And question mark is that how much of the foreigners are going to net sell through the short selling, as it's been, they were not able to do short selling for more than a year. And this seems to be the one cases where there's a lot of stocks that are overshoot, particularly in the bio sector.
Right, and zooming out for a minute, speaking of foreign investors, the exchange rate has come down quite a bit over the past month or so. Right now, the Korean won is about 11.10 to the dollar, which is the lowest it's been since February. What's causing the won to gain here, or as it were, the dollar to weaken?
Right. If you look at the overall U.S. market, if you look at the U.S. economic conditions, numbers are coming in much stronger than expected in general. Clearly, we have seen massive inflow of the foreigners. Looking at, if you look at the economic numbers, it's coming in much stronger than expected, and also the unemployment numbers are coming in much better than expected as well. So this is causing the U.S. dollar to. It should have caused the U.S. dollar to appreciate, but in a recent trend, it has depreciated slightly. I think that going forward, most likely the U.S. dollar would expect it to rise and appreciate in the future. And if you look at Korean won as well, if you look at, in general, export numbers of Korea, it's continued to show a very strong number on a net basis. And we expect that number to continue, which means that the overall Korean won level is not going to vary that much. It's going to be probably trading in a range bound anywhere between 1100 to 1130. That seems to be the current cases. And this is the reason why the foreign investors are not really doing much in terms of the Korean equity market. Foreigners have been a major net seller in the past, but now it's pretty much in a flat in terms of the recent several months or so.
Right, and speaking of positive signs for the future, the Korean economy continues to show signs of recovery. The latest report from Statistics Korea shows production and consumption both up last month overall. Tell us a bit more about what's happening in the economy.
Yes, the numbers are coming in very nicely. If you look at the overall consumption numbers, it is up, the retail sales up about 10.9% year on year in March. This is the strongest growth that we've seen since the 2011 January, and it has revised up from the 8.3% gain in the previous month. On a monthly basis, retail sales rose by 2.3% in March, following 0.8% drop in the previous month. And also, if you look at the industrial output numbers, it is coming in slightly weaker. It fell by about 0.8% from a month ago on a sluggish production of the vehicles and machinery equipment amid the global shortage of the automotive chips. But it did gain a year earlier versus a year earlier. It gained by about 4.7%. So all in all, we are seeing the overall Korean economy is doing much better than expected, as it is skewed towards the export much more so than any other countries. In the future, we do expect Korea to continue to show strong numbers in terms of the economic growth because of the export numbers going to be continue to be well, particularly in the chip sector as well as the automobile sector.
Got it. All right, Mr. Yu, we'll have to leave it there for today. Thanks so much for sharing your insights, and of course, have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.